Cyber Threat Brief for April 30th, 2026. Microsoft's February patch for a Russian zero-day fell short, leaving CVE 2026-32202 exploited in the wild with a May 12 federal deadline. GitHub patched a critical remote code execution flaw, giving attackers access to millions of private repos, but 88% of enterprise servers remain unpatched. Linux distributions scramble to fix copy fail, a privilege escalation bug in every kernel since 2017, while Team PCP's latest supply chain attack hits SAP packages and injects persistence hooks into Claude Code and VS Code. Here's the full breakdown of today's top security stories. Daily Cyber Threat Brief, April 30, 2026. Next section, Critical Alerts. Microsoft Windows, CVE 2026-32202. Incomplete patch creates zero-click credential theft flaw. Microsoft's February patch for CVE 2026-21510, a zero-day exploited by Russia's APT-28 against Ukraine, failed to fully close the vulnerability. The incomplete fix left a zero-click authentication coercion flaw in Windows Shell that leaks NetNTLMv2 hashes to attackers. Microsoft marked it as exploited on April 14, and CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, added it to the KEV, known Exploited Vulnerabilities Catalog on April 29 with a May 12 deadline for federal agencies. The flaw, EPSS, the Exploit Prediction Scoring System, 7.2%, 92nd percentile, allows remote attackers to steal NTLM hashes by sending a malicious LNK file, enabling pass-the-hash attacks for lateral movement and data theft. Akamai researcher Mayor Dehan discovered the flaw while testing Microsoft's February patches and found that victim machines still authenticated to attacker servers despite the remote code execution fix. APT-28 originally exploited in January by chaining it with to bypass Defender Smart Screen and remotely execute code, and 3 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Action. Apply April 2026 Patch Tuesday updates immediately. Federal agencies must patch by May 12. Review network authentication logs for anomalous NTLM authentication attempts to external IPs. This is the second patch for the same issue. Russian targeting is confirmed. Sources: the Register Bleeping Computer. GitHub CVE 2026-3854. Critical RCE allowed access to millions of private repos. GitHub patched a critical remote code execution flaw, CVE 2026-3854, on March 4 that allowed attackers with push access to execute arbitrary code on GitHub Com servers and GitHub Enterprise instances, potentially exposing millions of private repositories. As researchers found the vulnerability affects shared storage nodes on GitHub Com and grants full server compromise on GitHub Enterprise server. The flaw stems from insufficient sanitization of user-supplied options during Git push operations, allowing attackers to inject additional fields that bypass sandboxing and execute code. GitHub deployed a fix to GitHub Com within 6 hours and found no evidence of exploitation before disclosure. However, 88% of reachable GitHub Enterprise server instances remain vulnerable. Patches are available for all supported GES releases: 3.14.25, 3.15.20, 3.16.16, 3.17.13, 3.18.8, 3.19.4, 3.20.0 or later. Action: GitHub Enterprise server administrators must upgrade immediately. Check telemetry for anomalous Git push operations. This is one of the most severe SA-S vulnerabilities discovered, despite no confirmed exploitation. Source: Bleeping Computer. Linux CVE 2026-31431, copy fail. Root privilege escalation in all distributions since 2017. A high-severity Linux kernel vulnerability, CVSS, the Common Vulnerability Scoring System, 7.8, allows unprivileged local users to gain root access on essentially all Linux distributions shipped since August 2017, including Amazon Linux, RHEL, SUSE, and Ubuntu. The flaw stems from a logic error in the aljif-eid cryptographic module that allows writing 4 controlled bytes into the page cache of any readable file. 732-byte Python exploit can edit a setuid binary to obtain root, and the vulnerability has cross-container impact since the page cache is shared across all processes. The exploit is portable across distributions, requires no race conditions or kernel offsets, is tiny and stealthy, and works reliably. Major distributions have released patches. Action: apply kernel updates from your distribution immediately. This is similar to Dirty Pipe, CVE 2022-0847, but in a different subsystem. The exploit is simple, reliable, and works across distributions. Source: The Hacker News. Next section, Ransomware claims last 48h. 3 claims tracked across 2 groups in the last 48 hours. These are unverified claims from ransomware leak sites, not confirmed breaches. Group victim sector country Aurora Costa Solutions, LLC Warehousing and Logistics United States Aurora Bayou Title, Inc. Title Insurance and Real Estate United States Aurora, Advantage Genetics, LLC Clinical Laboratory Services, United States Radar Bentley Capital Ventures, Financial Services, United States Aurora, posted 3 claims on April 29, including detailed exfiltration inventories. Costa Solutions breach includes SSNs for 3,000 8,000 plus individuals from W-2, I-9s, background checks, 150 plus medical injury files, CEO financial documents, client contracts, HEB, CVS, Cisco, Amazon, and infrastructure secrets. Bayou Title breach spans 20 plus years, 2004 to 2026, with 70,000 100,000 plus SSNs from real estate closing documents, complete Sage 50 payroll databases, 103 gigabytes of title abstracts, and plaintext credentials for government portals. Radar posted Bentley Capital Ventures on April 29. Next section, Ransomware and Extortion. VEC2, Zero ransomware functions as wiper due to design flaw. VEC2. Zero ransomware, deployed in Team PCP supply chain attacks, acts as a wiper rather than ransomware due to a critical design flaw. Checkpoint researchers discovered that VEC2. Zero discards 3 of 4 decryption nonces for every file above 128 kilobytes, making 75% of large files permanently unrecoverable, even with the decryption key. The flaw exists across Windows, Linux, and VMware XE variants. VEC's CHA-CHA-20 IETF encryption generates 4 random nonces per large file, but only appends the final nonce to disk, discarding the first 3. Since CHA-CHA-20 IETF requires both the 32-byte key and exact 12-byte nonce to decrypt, the first 3/4 of every large file are unrecoverable by anyone, including the ransomware operators. VEC targets manufacturing, education, healthcare, and technology sectors. A Japanese survey found that 222 companies paid ransomware attackers, yet 60% failed to recover their data. Action: do not pay ransom to VEC operators. The decryption key cannot recover files larger than 128 kilobytes. This affects virtually all enterprise assets including VM disks, databases, documents and backups, sources, dark reading data breaches, net data breaches, net. Sandhills Medical Foundation breach affects 170,000 South Carolina healthcare provider Sandhills Medical Foundation disclosed a ransomware breach affecting nearly 170,000 individuals. The organization discovered the attack on May 8, 2025, and disclosed it publicly nearly 1 year later on April 29, 2026. Compromised data includes names, dates of birth, SSN, taxpayer ID, driver's licenses, government ID, passports, financial information, and personal health information. Inc. Ransomware Group listed Sandhills Medical on its leak site in early June 2025 and has since made stolen files available for download. Source: Security Week. Pine Bluff School District loses $3.2 million in business email compromise. Arkansas Pine Bluff School District lost more than $3.2 million in a business email compromise attack on December 17, 2025. Superintendent Dr. Jennifer Barbary confirmed the wire transfer during a board meeting on April 28, 2026. Source: data breaches. Net. Next section, Business and Infrastructure Threats. Team PCP supply chain attack targets SAP NPM packages with credential stealer. Team PCP launched a supply chain attack on April 29 targeting SAP-related NPM packages with credential stealing malware. The campaign, dubbed Mini Shai-Hulud, compromised MBT at 1.2.48, at capjs/db service at 2.10.1, at capjs/postgres at 2.2.2, and at capjs/SQLite at 2.2.2. The malicious versions added a pre-install script that downloads platform-specific bun runtime, extracts it, and executes credential stealing payload. The malware harvests GitHub and NPM tokens, GitHub Actions secrets, and cloud secrets from AWS, Azure, GCP, and Kubernetes. Stolen data is AES 256 GCM, encrypted with RSA 4096 key encapsulation, and exfiltrated to public GitHub repositories on the victim's own account with description: a Mini Shai-Hulud has appeared. Over 1,100 repositories now have this description. The attack self-propagates through developer workflows by injecting malicious GitHub Actions workflows and publishes poisoned NPM package versions. New features in this attack include encrypting all exfiltrated data, making it decipherable only to the attacker, exiting on Russian locale systems, and abusing Claude/settings. JSON session start hook and vscode/tasks. JSON with run on folder open to execute malware when repositories are opened in VS Code or Claude Code. Action, check dependencies for MBT at capjs/db service at capjs/postgres and at capjs/SQLite. Inspect, Claude/settings, JSON and vscode/tasks, JSON files and repositories, rotate GitHub tokens, NPM tokens, and cloud credentials. Search for repositories with description. A mini Shaihulet has appeared on your organization's GitHub. Source, the Hacker News. Checkmarx data stolen in Team PCP supply chain. Attack Checkmarx confirmed that the March 23 supply chain attack targeting its Kix open source project resulted in data theft. The attack, attributed to Team PCP, used credentials compromised via the Trivy hack to access Checkmarx's GitHub environment. Attackers poisoned 2 open VSX plugins and 2 GitHub Actions workflows on March 23, then retained or regained access and published fresh malicious code on April 22. Docker Hub Kix image, GitHub Action, VS Code extension, Developer Assist extension. The second incident resulted in the compromise of Bitwarden CLI NPM package. Lapsus added Checkmarx to its leak site on April 27, claiming theft of source code, employee databases, API, keys, and MongoDB/MySQL credentials. Checkmarx confirmed data exfiltration occurred on March 30, 2026, and published a 96 GB archive. The company retained Mandiant for investigation, performed broader credential reset, strengthened security controls, locked down GitHub repository access, and launched code audit. Source, Security Week. Claude Mythos finds 271 0 days in Firefox Anthropics. Claude Mythos preview AI model identified 271 vulnerabilities in Firefox, all fixed in Firefox 150, released this week. This follows 22 security bugs found by Opus 4, 6 and fixed in Firefox 148. Anthropic announced it will not release Mythos to the public due to exploitation risk, stating the model is capable of scanning for weaknesses faster and more persistently than hundreds of human hackers. The model discovered vulnerabilities that had existed in major operating systems and browsers for nearly 3 decades. Schneier notes that assuming defenders can patch and push updates quickly, this technology favors defenders. Source, Schneier on security. GitHub apologizes as uptime drops below 85%. GitHub published an apology after availability dropped below 85% in April 2026, down from already low 90% in 2025. The platform blamed agentic development workflows that accelerated sharply since December 2025. Recent incidents include a merge queue bug on April 23 that reverted previously merged changes, and an Elasticsearch cluster overload on April 27, likely botnet attack, that broke search-dependent UI. HashiCorp co-founder Mitchell Hashimoto announced plans to move his Ghosty terminal emulator project off GitHub, stating GitHub is no longer a place for serious work, and noting daily outages for the past month. GitHub planned 10 times capacity increase in October 2025, but determined by February 2026 that 30 times capacity is required. CTO Vlad Fedorov stated priorities are availability first, then capacity, then new features. Source, The Register. AWS engineers. AI development requires human review for everything. AWS Store Gen Director Steve Tarksa stated that despite AI coding advancements, nothing ships without human review. In contrast to AWS keynote claims of magic AI building infrastructure around the clock, Tarksa confirmed hallucinations, guardrail violations, and AI doing work beyond specifications remain unresolved. He emphasized spec-driven development reduces hallucinations at best, but doesn't solve the problem. Tarksa stated AWS takes a strong stance that companies can't get to the point where we don't have more junior engineers coming in. We have to continue to grow the talent. Engineers spend less than 30% of their time on core engineering, with AI removing friction in other areas rather than replacing engineering judgment. Source, The Register. Next section, General Security News. CISA releases Zero Trust Guidance for Operational Technology, CISA, in coordination with Department of War, Department of Energy, FBI, and State Department, released guidance for applying zero trust principles to operational technology environments. The guidance addresses IT-OT convergence risks and supports OT owners in transitioning to zero trust architecture while considering legacy infrastructure, operational constraints, and safety requirements. It focuses on comprehensive asset visibility, supply chain risk management, identity and access management, network segmentation, secure communication protocols, and vulnerability management. Source, CISA. AI Agent Identity Security Gap, Emerging Cyberscoop Analysis, highlights the identity security gap created by AI agents that can act autonomously, while traditional security models assume a human is behind every action. Anthropic's decision not to release Mythos publicly underscores the risk that AI systems capable of helpful tasks can also exploit systems faster than human hackers. Legitimate agents need credentials to act on behalf of users. OpenAI Operator, Google Gemini, Visa Intelligence Commerce Connect, while adversaries can fake humanity at scale using the same capabilities. The economics favor attackers. One person can supervise an army of autonomous systems running valid personas across multiple interactions simultaneously. Most organizations treat identity as a login problem rather than addressing the question of who or what they've already let in. Source: Cyberscoop. Microsoft to block TLS1. 0/1. 1 on Exchange Online POP3/IMAP4 in July 2026. Microsoft will block legacy TLS1. 0 and 1. 1 connections to Exchange Online for POP3 and IMAP4 clients starting July 2026. Support for TLS1. 0/1. 1 in Exchange Online ended in 2020, and both protocols were deprecated in 2021. Microsoft added an opt-in endpoint in 2023 for clients that didn't support TLS1. 2 or later, but that option expires in July. Microsoft expects minimal impact, stating modern email clients already support TLS1. 2 or higher, and the vast majority of POP/IMAP traffic uses newer protocols. Legacy devices or software that opted into the legacy endpoints may stop working when connections fail. Action: audit POP3 and IMAP4 clients connecting to Exchange Online. Verify TLS1, 2 or higher support before July 2026. Legacy devices that can't upgrade will lose connectivity. Source: The Register. Next section: Patch Priority. Windows CVE 2026-32202, CVSS unknown, CISAKEV, EPSS 7.2%, zero-click credential theft, federal deadline May 12, active exploitation confirmed. GitHub Enterprise Server CVE 2026-3854, critical. Remote code execution allowing access to private repos, 88% of servers still vulnerable. Linux CVE 2026-31431, CVSS 7.8. Copy fail privilege escalation affecting all distributions since 2017, reliable root exploit available. SAP NPM packages, MBT, at cap.js/* compromised by Team PCP, credential stealing malware with persistence hooks. Firefox 150, 271, vulnerabilities discovered by Claude Mythos now patched. Next section, Vulnerability Disclosures. CVE 2026-32202, Windows Shell Authentication Coercion, 0-day, Microsoft Windows Shell Authentication Coercion Vulnerability. CISAKEV due May 12. EPSS 7.2%, 92nd percentile, allows remote attackers to expose sensitive information via network spoofing. Flaw is an incomplete patch for CVE 2026-21510, which APT28 exploited against Ukraine in January. Actively exploited, marked by Microsoft on April 14 and added to CISAKEV catalog on April 29. Allows zero-click netntLMV2 hash theft via malicious LNK files. CVE 2026-3854, GitHub Remote Code Execution, critical GitHub. COM and GitHub Enterprise Server Remote Code Execution Vulnerability, EPSS 0.4%, 58th percentile. Allows attackers with push access to execute arbitrary code on servers via maliciously crafted git push command. Discovered by Wiz on March 4, patched on GitHub. COM within 6 hours. No evidence of exploitation before disclosure, but 88% of GitHub Enterprise Server instances remain vulnerable. Patches available for all supported GES releases. CVE 2026-31431, Linux Copy Fail Privilege Escalation, High Linux Kernel Local Privilege Escalation, CVSS 7.8, EPSS 0.0%, 1st percentile. An ALGIF EAD cryptographic subsystem allows unprivileged users to write controlled bytes into page cache of readable files to gain root. Introduced in August 2017 commit, affects all major distributions. 732-byte Python exploit is portable, reliable, and works across distributions. Patches released by major distributions. Patchy Thrift, Log4j, Python, and Post-CSS Vulnerabilities Microsoft Security Update Guide, published advisories for multiple third-party vulnerabilities. CVE 2026-34477, Apache Log4j Core Hostname Verification Bypass, Apache Thrift Java Hostname Verification, Apache Thrift C++ JSON Out of Bounds Read, Apache Thrift Node. JS Recursion, Apache Thrift Go Overflow, Apache Thrift Swift Crash, Apache Thrift C Glib Crash, Python Windows Asyncio OOB Write, Post CSS Cross-Site Scripting, pip Self-Update Vulnerability, and various Linux kernel issues. All show low EPSS scores, 0.2%, indicating minimal exploitation likelihood, and 20 additional CVEs. See show notes for the full list. Next section, Trends and Context. Incomplete patches are emerging as a critical risk, with Microsoft's CVE 2026-32202 demonstrating how initial fixes can leave exploitable gaps that sophisticated attackers discover and abuse. Supply chain attacks have evolved to target AI development tooling, with Team PCP's latest campaign injecting persistence mechanisms into Claude Code and VS Code configuration files, turning the tools developers use to write secure code into infection vectors. The gap between AI capability announcements and operational reality is widening, with AWS internal practices contradicting keynote claims and GitHub's infrastructure buckling under agentic development workloads that exceeded capacity planning by 3 times. That concludes today's cyber threat brief. From Carolina Clear Tech, stay patched, stay vigilant.